The Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, is a nation scarred by conflict. For decades, its eastern provinces have been plagued by violence and instability. This complex and brutal conflict has claimed millions of lives and displaced countless others. The international community has struggled to find a lasting solution, and the DRC remains trapped in a cycle of violence and suffering. The ongoing conflict in the DRC is not just a regional crisis. It has far-reaching implications for global security, economic stability, and human rights. Understanding the root causes of this conflict is crucial to finding a path to peace. This is a story of war, greed, and the immense human cost of conflict. It is a story that demands our attention. The world cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the suffering in the DRC. The seeds of the DRC conflict were sown in the ashes of the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Over 100 days, extremist Hutu militias slaughtered an estimated 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus. This horrific event sent shockwaves throughout the region, with long-lasting consequences. Following the genocide, hundreds of thousands of Hutus, including those responsible for the massacres, fled across the border into eastern DRC. They sought refuge in the vast and densely forested region, hoping to escape justice. This influx of refugees destabilized the region and created a volatile mix of armed groups and ethnic tensions. Rwanda, now led by a Tutsi-dominated government, viewed the Hutu militias in the DRC as a direct threat to its security. They accused the DRC government of harboring and supporting the genocidaires. This tension would soon escalate into open warfare. The Rwandan genocide cast a long shadow over the region. It created a legacy of fear, mistrust, and violence that continues to haunt the DRC today. The M23, or Movement 23, emerged as a major player in the DRC conflict in recent years. This rebel group, composed primarily of ethnic Tutsis Rwandese, gained notoriety for its military prowess and ruthlessness. Formed in 2012, the M23 quickly seized control of key towns and cities in eastern DRC. They exploited the weakness of the Congolese army and terrorized the local population. Their advance sent shockwaves through the region and raised alarm bells in the international community. Despite initial setbacks, the M23 has experienced a resurgence in recent years. They have launched a series of offensives, capturing territory and displacing thousands of civilians. The group's resilience and firepower have raised questions about their external support. The M23's resurgence is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the DRC. Their brutal tactics and territorial ambitions threaten to plunge the region back into chaos. Rwanda has played a complex and controversial role in the DRC conflict. The Rwandan government, led by President Paul Kagame, has repeatedly intervened in its neighbors' affairs, citing security concerns and the need to protect Tutsis in the DRC. Rwanda's initial intervention in the late 1990s was driven by the pursuit of Hutu militias responsible for the genocide. However, Rwanda's involvement in the DRC has continued long after the initial threat subsided. Critics accuse Rwanda of using the conflict as a pretext to advance its economic and political interests. The Congolese government have accused Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels. Evidence suggests that Rwanda provides the group with weapons, training, manpower, and logistical support. Rwanda vehemently denies these allegations, claiming it is committed to peace and stability in the region. Rwanda's role in the DRC conflict is a subject of intense debate. While the country has legitimate security concerns, its actions have often exacerbated the violence and instability. Section 5. The DRC's hidden treasure minerals fueling the conflict. Beneath the surface of the DRC's lush landscape lies a wealth of mineral resources. The country is rich in gold, diamonds, coltan, cobalt, and other valuable minerals. These resources, however, have become a curse rather than a blessing, fueling the conflict and enriching those who profit from war. Armed groups, including the M23, control many of the mining areas in eastern DRC. They exploit the mines to fund their operations, purchase weapons, and enrich their commanders. This illicit trade in minerals has become a major source of revenue for the rebels, perpetuating the cycle of violence. International corporations have also been implicated in the exploitation of DRC's mineral wealth. Companies seeking cheap raw materials for electronics, batteries, and other products often turn a blind eye to the human cost of their profits. The DRC's vast mineral wealth has become a magnet for greed and exploitation. Efforts to regulate the mining sector and break the link between minerals and conflict have been met with limited success. Section 6. A Nation's Struggle. The Weakness of the Congolese Army. The Congolese Army, known as the FARDC, has long been plagued by weaknesses that have hampered its ability to effectively combat rebel groups and restore stability to the country. Years of conflict, corruption, and mismanagement have taken a heavy toll on the military. The FARDC is poorly equipped, underpaid, and lacks adequate training and discipline. Soldiers often lack basic necessities such as food, water, and medical supplies. This has led to low morale, desertions, and a culture of impunity within the ranks. Corruption is rampant within the Congolese army. Funds intended for equipment, salaries, and training are often siphoned off by corrupt officials. This lack of accountability undermines the military's effectiveness and erodes public trust in the government. The Congolese army's weaknesses have created a security vacuum in the east, allowing armed groups like the M23 to operate with relative impunity. Addressing these challenges is crucial for restoring peace and stability to the DRC. Section 7. The World Watches. International Response and Accountability. The international community has long recognized the severity of the DRC conflict. The United Nations has deployed one of its largest and most expensive peacekeeping missions to the country, known as MONUSCO. Regional organizations such as the African Union have also launched initiatives to address the crisis. Despite these efforts, the conflict persists and millions of Congolese civilians continue to suffer and die. The UN peacekeeping mission has failed their duty to protect civilians from violence in the region. Regional initiatives have often been hampered by a lack of coordination and resources. Holding perpetrators of human rights abuses accountable is crucial for achieving lasting peace. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, has investigated war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in the DRC. However, securing justice has been a slow and challenging process. The international community must do more to support a sustainable peace in the DRC. This requires addressing the root causes of the conflict, strengthening regional cooperation, and ensuring accountability for those responsible for atrocities. Section 8. A Cry for Help. The Humanitarian Crisis in the DRC. The ongoing conflict in the DRC has created one of the world's most dire humanitarian crises. Millions of people have been displaced from their homes, forced to live in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions. Access to food, water, healthcare, and education is severely limited. The conflict has had a devastating impact on children. Thousands have been orphaned or separated from their families. Many are forced to work in mines or become child soldiers. Girls are particularly vulnerable to sexual violence and exploitation by M23 and Rwanda's rebels. The humanitarian crisis in the DRC is a stain on the conscience of the world. The international community must provide increased funding and support to humanitarian organizations working tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of the Congolese people. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable. It is a story of unimaginable suffering, resilience, and the urgent need for peace. Section 9. A Path Forward. Hope for Peace and Stability. The path to peace and stability in the DRC is long and arduous. It requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the root causes of the conflict, promotes good governance, and empowers the Congolese people to shape their own destiny. A lasting solution must include disarming and reintegrating armed groups into society. This requires providing former combatants with economic opportunities, education, and psychosocial support to help them reintegrate into civilian life. Good governance is essential for ending the cycle of violence. This includes tackling corruption, strengthening the rule of law, and promoting transparency and accountability in government institutions. The international community must remain engaged in supporting peace and development in the DRC. This includes providing financial assistance, technical expertise, and diplomatic pressure to ensure that all parties work towards a peaceful resolution. The journey to peace in the DRC will be long and difficult. But with sustained effort, commitment, and a shared vision for a brighter future, there is hope for a nation scarred by conflict to heal and prosper.